So team, welcome back. We are now more towards our day 8 and a couple of things that we need to do today. I want to relook at what we did on functions, and I also want to talk about arrays team. Mostly single dimension to start with, and then we will navigate to multi-dimensional. We also have to get into the OOPS concepts. How we go about creating objects, classes, and working with them. So a little bit of both we should be able to cover, team. So any questions on what you were practicing so far? I'm sure you all got sufficient chance to be able to go through. Any questions, team, on what we're doing? And if any of you stuck with your practice of program at any point, let me know. I could make you the presenter and we could take a look. So team, I'm switching my workspace back to our Java March and looking at our code here now. Team, I'll be also glad to just see progress, even if it's not question, even if you want to show how you're practicing at your end at any time during the session, let me know. You can take a look into your screens too. It's been pretty much one way so far, but I'm assuming, team, you're getting a chance to practice. Yes, no, most of you. Okay. All right, so the idea, team, is to keep things in a pretty simple fashion for us. That way it is easy for us to go back and relate to how we came to each and everything. So we were also spending enough time on assignments, team, through which we are able to understand concepts more and more. Let's close some of these tabs to begin with. So we went through basics of functions. The function calculator here that I was talking about as to why we need a function. And then we spoke about the three different type of functions. Functions that just execute code, functions where there are input arguments, and functions that can also return values. And how we can create each of them by using the following structure. We'll continue to apply a lot of this going forward. So it will be very important for you to get a good control on functions, team. So bank assignment 3, what did we do here? Username and password is secured. User can log in only if the combination is correct. It's given up to 3 attempts. So that is where we were going through our overall program. And if I'm not wrong, this works, correct? There are more versions to it, so I'm sure the last one, there's a gap here. Let's see. Yes, we were taking inputs from the system and we were going through a while loop. And each time we're asking the user to enter the username and password. If the combination is correct, we're logging the user in and breaking from there. So break takes us out of the loop, team, whatever loop it belongs to. So if I select the break here, it shows me that it belongs to this while loop and it will come out here. And we did not use continue as specifically, but I showed the difference in the sample code. All right, everyone. So far so good. We were about to do a few more assignments on banking. Let's do that, but once we understand maybe arrays and also talk a little bit about OOPS concept coding level. All right, so J24. How's everyone doing, team? Hope staying safe and healthy. Let's start with arrays, team. So, team, when I want to store data, we talk about variables, right? So I'll say variable username and a variable password, and both of these are of type string. Now these are individual entries, not a collection. So what do I mean? The simplest example through which we can try and understand ASD is, let's try paint itself. Let me see what this diagram was all about. 1 second. Yeah, this was Roop's concept. All right. So let us say we live in a street. Okay? So when I live in a street, my address each is a different home by itself. All right. So my address to each home is pretty much different. This will be 2000. This will be 2010. This will be 2013. Not necessarily in the same number series, but each of them are there. Now, at any point, when I want home A, I need that specific address. Home B, I need that specific address. And if I say just 2000, that is my street number, I need to say 2000 Victory Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, and the zip code. Now, this data has to get repeated for all of these homes. Now, then came the complex of apartments, where they said the apartment by itself will have one address, like let us say 3000 and all of these. And within that, there are unit numbers. Unit number like from 101, 102, all the way to 150, for example. There are 50 apartments in one level. So whenever I want to send a postal mail, out here, I need to specify for each one. This keeps on changing if I have to go to each different home. But if I have to go to each apartment, first I just need to know the main address. And then there is a common post box here where people will come and pick their mails from. And that is easy as information or putting information together. So whenever I want to be able to club similar type of data together, I can create something called as an array. Now, with that concept in mind, let's look at how we can put that into implementation. So here I have one set of users about, but if I say string of array with UN, so I'll basically comment the old one team, and then I can say VUN equals not a username like A, but I can put multiple usernames in B, C, D, E. These are my usernames. Now, for me to mention that this is an array, I put them within a curl brackets. All of these. What happened? What does it say? Array constants can be used in initializers. creating itself. I need to give the size. So here is where I've created a set of 1, 2, 3, 5 usernames. And similarly, correspondingly, I'm going to create a set of 5 passwords. And here, this will be, I'll say 1, oopsie, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now we have created another array team, but this time the content of the array is critical for me. And these are all integers. So I'm going to say that integers. And it's passwords and integers not making too much sense for us. But I'm putting them as integral values. Integer and open and square brackets. So the two things that you need to remember in terms of a syntax for password is you have your square brackets after and I have your curl brackets to hold the data. Now to read the data, I can always just print and say VUN, open square brackets, and start with the index 0. So index 0 is basically saying which one. So the count starts with the first, and that's 0. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. The length of this array itself is 5. Got it, everyone? Now what we're doing is we're just printing the first one, and each time I can go in and print each of the usernames like this. And let's first run this part of it and see what happens to you. Close tabs to the left. I don't want anything else open right now. So just save this and let's execute. So I get A and B team. At the same time, if I try and print anything that is out of the array, if it is out of the bound of it, it's gonna say that, you know what, the index is out of bound for that array. And that's another exception that it's gonna throw. And did we discuss try catch team earlier? I'm looking at it. Doesn't look like. So when we do try catch, I will show you how we can handle these exceptions. These are pretty simple ones, but this will give you access to every element. Now, if this is the case, then how do I avoid such things where I want to print the entire thing? So first I will do int I equals bun dot, and you will see a few things that you can execute on an array team. Most importantly, what we're looking at is the length of it. It is going to print the size of it, and let's say my username array size is plus 5. And now let's do the same for password. Okay, let's run this. So there I get the size of it. Once I have the size of it, I could control something about it. I could say for int, I already used I, so for int a equals to 0. The count starts from 0 team. So that is important. And I'll say A is less than I, that's the length of it. And I'll say A plus plus. So I'm going one time at a time for each user. I'll say user plus A plus is. To understand how I'm doing this concatenation team, I'm using spaces, I'm using plus signs. So when the output comes, it should look correct for us. It should also be easy on the eyes when we're reading. Is now what do I do? V username in square brackets A. So A is my variable. That is the one that will keep change. And I should be able to get all the usernames. And here I should be able to get all the passwords. Yes, it is not safe, secure to do such codings. That's how you start as a developer, just to see when you're architecting, designing, is to see what's happening first. You're open to all the security vulnerabilities, but then you design from there, going up first. So let's see what this gives us. Any issue in the code team, it will throw us out. It will say, you know what, there's an issue in executing this. Now, I want you to work on an exercise team. This was the other one that I was talking about. So now that the user is logged in, create functions to add, with transfer. And do you want to try this as an assignment and show me, everyone? I can explain once again what I want. I'm not getting the answers. Okay, let me show you one example, and then you can try and get more advanced into the team. Basically, we'll apply whatever concepts we've done so far all into one team. Okay, so this is fine, add funds. Okay, let's do it here. So team, in my main program, I want to create a user. So let me create a version for one user, and then, oh, is it Uma? Great. Then you want to show what you have done, or should I just show the flow once, and then you can also show us what you've done till withdraw? So here I'm going to create a string array team of v user, and in this I just have one user for now. The first one is username, the second one is password, the third one is password. This is can I put just an integer here like 15,000, 150,000? I cannot team. So that will be a problem because it has to be in string only. So I'll just say 15,000 as string. Now this is my user data. Now, when I say add funds and I pass a specific amount, what does that mean? This user information I need to change for it. So how do I do? First, I have the integer, right? So I'll need to get the user's third content 0, 1, 2. This is an array. So I'll say 2 of it equals old v user, what was there, plus x. We will add into it. Now, can someone tell me why there is an issue on V user, the line 12? Here is my main method. Here is my function. Why is there an issue? Because see, the definition of variables, that's the scope or life of a team. We have to be very clear on where it is defined. V user is defined on line 6. So it belongs to this curl brackets, these curl brackets, line 4 to line 8. It is totally invisible anywhere outside. So now then, how do I make this content visible to anywhere within this class? Then I have to put it under these curl brackets. Then it would give us the result. So I basically cut this and I put it here. So now I should be able to access this. It will ask me to make static, and I'll talk about static theme. When we get to classes, we get into static. So now what is happening? I will say, make it even more explicit. I will first say CISO old balance was plus V user 2 and team type a lot. Don't do too much copy paste, please. That will give you good idea. New balance is V user 2. Now, if I run this code, will there be any issue, team? If I run this code, is there going to be any issue? Would we see any output? Think of it. There is nothing that we're calling from within main to make that happen. Main is totally empty. So add funds, what is there here and so on, it doesn't care. Now let me run this. So it basically gives me a blank one. But if I say add funds and put 1,000 into it, and now let's execute it. So did you observe what it did, team? And that's kind of a major defect if you notice, then we need to add funds. So we have an issue. This plus sign, if it sees that one side is a number, the other side is a string, it will override that operation and make it an append or a concatenation. So it will join it together. So it joined that together. It did not give us an error. It just added them. It gave us a totally different value. What we need is Java string to int conversion. What happens is there are methods that we can have. We can convert data when we want to, when we're using it. So this integer.parseInt, if I'm doing team, this is basically string number equals to 10 and then the result. So let's use that. So why I'm trying to show you thing at any time, I want you to do a quick search for the exact right information as to how you could do it. It will give you a faster approach. You'll also get to know new ideas. If you're comfortable with what you have, then great. Which is the one that I need to convert to integer now? This is already an integer, so only this one. So say integer int, and into that I can provide a string. Now this will give me an output. Again, there's an issue. This whole thing is right now by itself an integer. There's nothing complicated. I'm not using tongue twisters here. Just the fact that if I have integer and I need to add a string to it, we need to convert it correctly. So once converted, when I'm putting it back into VUser2, I have to take it back as a string. So now we are doing the reverse. See, I'll search for Java int to string. And these are the different methods that we have, team, how we can do it. I can just say string dot value of, that's also fine. Or I can say integer dot toString. So integer dot toString is fine, or I can do string dot value of, and within this, I'm giving this entire. Now, hopefully, we have the right information. Let's see. There we go. So now, team, if I run it, rerun it this time, what should come out? Can you tell me? I ran it once. It came as 15,000, 16,000. When I rerun it, what would happen? The balance is already 16, right? Currently, it will give us the same result, team. It will not give us 16 and 17. Why? This data is only temporary, all this local, unless you write it into a file or an XML or an external website and so on. So it will only, it's born on line 3, dies on line 7. So it doesn't reflect. But if I keep using it, the same one, while it is there, then yes, you can see that it keeps adding to it. Each time it kept adding. But next time you run it, it'll restart from the same point. Unless you take this local data that is inside your program and put it into a database locally or in the cloud or somewhere that it can be there permanently. That is where it can get connected. So this is add funds. Now there is withdraw funds, there could be transfer funds and so on. So now see, team, I have one user like this. I want to create one more user. So in this case, then what will happen, team? Actually, in this user only. You'll need to start thinking about, okay, for each user, how do we handle it? How do they come together? So that is where we will apply a little bit multi-dimensional thing. I will hold it back to a place where I can show you how we interact with Excel sheets. So it's easy to understand 2D. So that was very basic of arrays, team, of how you can use to store that locally, content of what you want, could be any format. And if you want to convert it during it, you can. So add funds is there, then you can do transfer funds, you can have a login function, you can keep on adding to the same thing. All that we were doing earlier could be combined in there. Any questions on this? Oops. All right. Uma, was it Uma? Someone wanted to show the what you had done. Adding and withdraw. Do you want to present and show briefly, couple of minutes? Your code. Okay, I'll quickly present.
Hi, Karthik.
Hello.
Yeah, I did for one user, Karthik. I didn't use any arrays because I was not sure about the concept. This is the program. Do you want me to just run it first?
Sure.
Okay.
You can also show the walk through the code maybe in either way.
Oh, sure. I'm just trying to get the amount what they have it as a balance and try to add an amount to that account. So the balance is that. And for the withdraw again, I just made sure like I'm not taking more funds than it is necessary. So I just had an checking for there. I'll just run that also and then I can explain the code.
We still
Something wrong.
have line 12. So balance input. So you can start your comments from line 13.
Yeah, I think I did something wrong. It was working. Let me check.
Why do you need to, comment it also is not needed. No?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and do it once again. Yeah, I think there is something wrong in the second account. It was working fine. Let me check. I don't know where I have the error. Do you want me to explain the first one, Karthik? To add the amount, which is
Sure.
working fine. Okay, so I'm just getting an balance of the account from the user, and I am sending that to an function. So this is my function here. So there I am getting the amount which is needed to be added to this I, and I am returning that here and printing out.
And this is the add fund.
Yes. And for the withdraw, I don't know what was the mistake. The same way, like how much amount to be withdrawn. I'm just comparing that amount with the initial amount got. And if it is greater than that, I just give an error message saying not enough funds.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was working, and I don't know, now I get an error message. I have to figure out where it is from.
Look at that error. Just scroll.
Sure.
The amount to withdraw, exception in thread main. Click line 17. So just go to line 17.
Sure.
If you click last red line, it should take us there. So it's saying withdraw
Oh, I have to click the last line you're saying here in the error message.
Correct. The blue one, it says J. Where in it is it? So then it is going to line 40. So now click the second last line. It's still in our, yes, from there it's going here. So this is where the error is coming.
Okay.
Next in. And the amount to be withdrawn. Okay. So it's definitely is. So just scroll up once for me.
To the
Just go up all
to the
way.
place where I'm calling it.
Yeah, go up. SC1, SC1. Okay. Go down, please. Little
Sure.
bit. I know it wouldn't affect, but make that as SC2 and SC2. I just want
Okay.
it's make a difference. But I don't know why it's then pointing to that specific line number 40. And scroll down for us. We will rerun this.
Sure.
Now we can if we just do withdraw, it's working.
No, Karthik, it will not because, yeah, I think it should. I'll just do comment
No.
this.
Just do complete the run once.
Okay. Yeah.
Same lines. It says no such element exception. It is not able to start the scanner for some reason again, though we closed it.
It was working fine I mean, when I was doing it, I just ran it after this. I don't know. It's getting an error.
Can I take the keyboard and mouse for a second?
Sure.
Add funds. I see. Unless we add funds.
Oh, okay.
And 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. It should not be to temp. It should go to balance. You sending balance. Oh,
Okay.
1 second.
Yeah, I think I gave the.
1 second. Hold on. You're sending I, whatever it is. Why are you sending? Oh, why are you sending this balance? What is balance?
I think I named it wrong. Available balance. So
yeah. So then this is balance equals return I. Yeah. So add fund. To what are we adding?
To the amount balance which you're sending to this function add fund, which you're getting in I. Karthik, I think the withdraw balance has to come before the println statement. Will that work correct then? If it is temp again and withdraw balance has to.
That's what I'm just trying to come here.
Okay.
Is equal to whatever we are entering here. Now add funds that balance. It has to come back into balance. The balance now is balance.
Okay.
Withdraw. How much do you want to withdraw? So no. Okay. So basically, you should take the inputs right here. I would suggest even.
Okay.
Okay. See, you're saying withdraw balance. So let's say you're sending balance. So that is there. And then you're taking amount to withdraw. If it is less, final amount equals to I minus amount. You're not returning anything, is it?
No, I'm not returning here. I'm printing it there.
No, you have to return nothing because it has to get updated to the balance.
Okay.
How will the balance get updated there? Vice versa. This is an integer.
Okay.
And we sending that back. And even for withdraw funds, again, because the way the names are right now.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can have balance as one. Add funds is one variable name. Withdraw, we can have one more. But let's try this now.
Okay.
$17. Oh, initialize variable. Oh, okay. So that was the reason. because if any of it does not go through, it needs a value. So I just initialized it. Now I don't think there will be an error. Let's rerun this. At least in the code, there's no error. Logic, let's see. Balance is so and so. Again, I think it's come back to our code where it was. Withdraw. Okay. See, this is a little bit shorter. This is only longer because of the if statement. Otherwise, it's the same logic. So you need to re-break the code and restart since it's a small one.
Okay.
All right. I don't see anything wrong. I would reattempt a new version of it, keeping this on the side.
Okay, Karthik, I'll try with another program.
Start with variables like v balance.
Okay.
And we add, we withdraw. So it's easy to name them as and when. And we could, let's just check. Maybe your logic is correct.
Okay, Karthik, I'll try and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Let me know in the next session. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me make myself the presenter again. All right. Team, can you all see my screen back? So team, let's talk about OOPS team and how we want to structure it. So the concept is very simple. What we focus on is the fact that everything in the world, we can break them into objects. Okay? There are only three things that we need to remember for an object. How do we, or what do we know about an object? Properties to it. Properties like that are used to describe it, identify it, and what can we do actions or methods on these objects. Now, depending on the type of the object, our properties and methods will change. So what we call as, let us say, if I talk about a different type of human beings, each of us are one class of humans. You know, we basically have a lot of similar properties. We do similar things. What could change is our names, our location, the way we look, the way we talk, and so on. That's the only primary difference. There is no other difference. But what any object belonging to that class can do is governed by those rules. How do we identify an object? How do we describe an object? And what can we do on an object? Now, when it comes to Java team, a lot of it is focused towards creating and working with it. It's a very simple concept of how we go about. We talk about defining a class team. So first I say, my box. Now let us talk about a box scheme. Any box that we talk about, how you can define it is it's got a specific height to it and it's got a width into it. And instead of for us to be able to And then we will talk about some things we can do with the box. What are you saying? Why are there so many errors coming up? I'm totally messing up with the syntax itself. Ding, 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 ding. Public talk. What is it? I'm not finding in the third. I'm getting lost, team. I don't know what I'm doing. Let me change it outside. Okay. Okay. I'm getting lost. My mind is talking. I'm trying to create something outside of it instead of within it, rather than saying my thoughts. Um, what am I doing wrong? Everything is good. Yeah. Extra context. And my box, let's say box 1, B1, my box, and I can say B1, BW, equal to statics, then, becomes a box. Similarly, I'm not speaking loud enough, team. I'm just trying to get the code first. Okay, explain it. Models. Totally lost my thoughts now. So in this case, B2 is a larger box. So basically what we have done, team, is this is a class called my books, and for that I can have various things for it. So I can have something like b status. Now status for this is one second. So b1 b status, I'll just say in this case open, and similarly here b1 b status equals to close. So this remains to be the data for each of these boxes, B1 or B2 at any time. So I can print B1 is plus B1 dot V status. And it would give me the value of it at any point of time. And the same for B2. And you have the ability to change these data and then be able to reprint them. So the status, the content of what is there for each object, for each box is in there. And now I'm going to close this and let's say we open this project. Or you could even talk about in stock or out of stock instead. So each box has to comply with the template of what is given. So class defines a boundary of what a box should look like, and these become my properties for an object slash belong to a class. Now similarly, I can create some methods. Your main method is the one that is executing for everything, but for the box itself, I can create methods like void get area. And if I'm just sending what it is, my box B into it as an input, I'm able to then go and say B dot get the height star for a box. What would be the area, team? For each side, weight, height. Okay, but then we have height, width, and breadth also, is it? Let us assume it is a height and width. That's just a rectangle. And V length. So the area, if I'm not wrong, I'll just say the area equals BVH B BW star BVA. Now this B area is just a temp. So I could print it and say area is plus B area, or I could also return it from wherever I call. So at any point, I could now call that function with my box. Let's get area and pass B1 into it, or get area and pass B2 into it. But the other way we can primarily do this thing still, now these are the commands that methods that are there for my box. So passing it, I can always say B1 dot, and you would also notice, apart from the variables that we created for it, there is also a get area out here. So if I send get area, it can get the area for it, that specific box itself. But I don't need this. I just need to say this. So we are pointing to that object, specific object. I'm going to explain a little bit about this in tomorrow's session. But all I'm saying is, like we were talking about here, what properties are there and what methods are there for my specific class, and for each object that I create in it, I'm able to put them up here. So this should get me the area for B1. If I say B2 dot get area, it should be able to do that. So those are the two things that we will quickly try and execute and see if it works. V length. I think the problem is we have width and height, we don't have length theme, and that's why I think area is coming as 0. So let's give length also. There you go. So the area for the first box is this. So you can also have things like the name of the box team. So if you have let's say name, then what you could do is I can say area for this dot b name will now be there plus is plus b area. Status. But now there's one problem. I don't have this names assigned, so just give me a minute. Name. So now same. Area for box 1 is 6,000 and area for box 2 is a much larger one. And yeah, so we've just created one function right now, but depending on what kind of a class it is, we can go about creating many more. So the simple one, for example, let me rename this to J25 my box. So don't lose the order. Or it will replace everywhere. There's a problem wherever it has to see J25 underscore my box, J25 underscore my box. Let's try to avoid that. What was I saying? So I want you to try and create something similar, team. So let us say that I have a class of you take up one more exercise, team. I'll just show you a simple example. Like, I'll show you external classes. External, how we create them in external directories for us. Let's do the same one. So at a class level, I'm creating few variables. I'm just saying I'm creating just a similar one to show the difference. So here I have, these are my class variables. So when every object will have this data structure. So by default, once we give a class level variables, they become as your parameters for any object that comes out. So as soon as I create an object one, let's say J26 underscore cars, let's say my C1, then we're creating a new object for it. And what is important is, unlike a variable, I need to use the keyword called new for it. If I did not use new, it does not create a reference to the object. So I will need to say new and J26 underscore. The reason we also have this parenthesis is at the time of creation, we could have some assignments done to it, visualizations for the class. We will look into. So here's my car one. So you basically are doing the same thing as to taking make of it and putting the values into it and so on. Now, let's talk about what methods it can public. What can we do? Refuel. Okay. So in here, I send a value of gallons to add. And we can basically do a blind add, but we don't know, right? P fuel, I'll say. And basically what we're doing then is we're calling that this dot B fuel plus equals gallons. And we are updating that into the old one. Now you can always add features like capacity and so on. How do we look at it and so on. So let us say I say drive car. And let's say I say miles. So now what do I do? The miles that is there also will increase. That is there. I'll put that as miles to drive. So for each vehicle that you create, once you've created it, you will be able to start seeing all the methods and what you can do on that as you look into. So let's say I want to refuel car to 20 gallons to it. Yes, I need to make sure there is an old amount of fuel. The fuel, let's say there was 10. And then we primarily also may want to new fuel level is plus B is B fuel. And so here's one. Let's just run one. Sorry. So that's the problem, team. Again, we need to do convert the integer and back. So how do I do that? So integer dot parse int and we give this fuel. Must be available. Okay. Then, now we have to convert this back into string. So string dot parse string, correct? What did we use? Where was it? I think we used the other one. String dot value of. What is the problem here? Okay. String dot value of the method take the input is can't see this because the meeting inside. And that becomes the value there. So miles to drive also team has to have the same thing. So refuel car at least should now do the correct result. Miles to drive has to also go to the same. Actually, it's very easy to change. Any questions, team? See you all tomorrow. We'll continue a little bit more on OOPS, and a few more important topics are there. I think. So we'll bring them on. Sorry, I didn't do I did this. When you drive car, let's also do a drive car, and I need to have the miles also right now. Let's say 30,000. So this is for my object. What are the miles for that specific object? And here we'll say drive car, and let's say 500 miles. So we would know what. Okay. So it's trying to stay with each object. This is for one object. The same exact thing I can replicate with least effort, and it cannot change the way it behaves. All objects under a class must stick to that. So that becomes important. I think that's it for today from my side. I'll see you all tomorrow. We get a session uploaded. This is 3, this is 30, this is 4,000, 5, and 400 to it, and rerun. So for each one, it has its own set of content that will continue tracking. So as you go along, you'll see the advantages of where all the OOPS concept will get applied now. Okay, everyone. I'll see you all back tomorrow. Thank you so much.